If you aren't getting referrals, I bet that you are less than happy with your sales volume every month. Hey, it's Jenny Bellinger, and I was recently referred to Jeff Bitten, the founder of Pitch 59, a digital referral card app. I signed up to get my own Pitch 59 card, and in the past 31 days, my card has been shared 20 times. Now, if you have one of those free digital business cards, do they share with you every day how to get your customers to share your card? Do your customers even know how to access your digital business card? If the answer is no, then you really should look into getting your own Pitch 59 card. If you go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com /pitch 59, I'll give you a 20% discount off your Pitch 59 card. Again, that's badassdirectsalesmastery.com /pitch 59, and you'll get 20% off of your referral digital card.
Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jenny will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger, helping you whip your business into shape. And today I have with me Staci Cahill. Now, Staci and I actually met in person before I ever invited her to be on the show. But we met, and I know if you're a listener, a regular listener, a member of the Badass crew, you know one of two answers about one of two places is about to come out of my mouth about where Staci and I met. And we met through BNI. And interestingly enough, for those of you who listened to the episode with Dr. Ivan Meisner recently, he was actually the one who pseudo introduced us. So let me tell you a little bit about Staci. She is more than just a mom. She's a doTERRA wellness advocate, a BNI coach, sound healer, and a classical conversations homeschooler. She's a woman on a mission to help empower other women to create abundance in their health, in their wealth, and in their life. She does this through listening with intent, promoting and equipping them with healthy tools, products, and practices to keep them functioning optimally, and encouraging them on their own journey to find their passions and achieve the life that they were created for. So I could keep going on forever and ever, but I think you all probably just want to hear from Staci. So Staci, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jenny. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited to just sit down and chat with you.
I am so glad, because what actually got us introduced was we were at the BNI National Conference, and because it was many of our first time ever at the national conference, we got to go to a special networking event with Dr. Ivan Meisner, and he asked for people to raise their hand if they had an interesting BNI journey. And you were the first person he handed the microphone to. So let's start there. Tell us your interesting BNI journey, because it's fascinating.
Yes. So I have been in BNI for 12 years with my doTERRA business, and for a very short stint before that with another direct sales company.
Okay.
So when I started with doTERRA and I decided it was going to be a business, I knew that I needed help to grow it. I was a single mom. I was working 50 to 60 hours at my regular job and had a call to do doTERRA with no time and no ability to do that. I also started this with my sister, who we decided early on would do all of our friends, all of our family. She would talk to the people we knew because so many circles in our life overlapped.
Yeah.
So BNI was the natural answer for me. I knew from past experience that if I showed up, if I built the relationships, if I did the things, I would grow a business. And when I went to my first BNI meeting, I had done my research. I knew what chapter I wanted. I knew when they met. I knew why I wanted to be there. And I actually knew the price that it was going to cost. So I walked in the door, went to my first meeting. And at the end of the meeting, I was ready to turn in an application.
Mhm.
And I was told throughout the course of the meeting that, oh, you're in direct sales? Oh, we don't see a lot of those in BNI. Maybe this isn't the right fit for you. Was told, oh, you're a single mom. What are you going to do with your child? You have commitments in BNI and you have to be here every week. And I was told that I didn't have the time that it takes, or that if I had a full-time job, that maybe this wasn't the right fit because I needed to be wanting to actually do a business, not a hobby. I had all of the cards stacked against me according to the members of the chapter, and they were all very supportive in helping me find another way to build my business. And when I told them, no, actually, I know what I'm doing. I have all the obstacles already overcome. All I need you to do is look at this application and let me prove it. And they did. They were very surprised that I already knew the obstacles. They were shocked that I had been in BNI before, but that helped to alleviate some of the, I know what I'm doing. I know how to run a
Mhm.
business. I know what you're going to ask of me, and I'm willing to commit. And I think that started my journey with BNI very intentionally and has been part of what has, you know, driven me to want to talk about MLMs in BNI, in networking for years. It's kind of a side passion project of mine as I've built my business, because it's hard enough to be in this industry and overcome some of those obstacles. And if
Mhm.
you're not really clear with yourself how you're going to do that and why it's so important that you do that, it's really easy to be talked out of the things that you're called to do by the rest of the world.
Oh my gosh. And I'm sure that if any of the listeners right now has experienced going to some sort of networking group like this, they've probably heard a lot of the same things from the people there. So hopefully this gives them a little bit of hope and maybe helps strengthen that backbone and that resolve to
I
go
hope so.
maybe
I
go
hope
try
so.
again. Because my own experience was I was very lucky because the chapter that I started with here in the St. Louis area was one that already had a network marketing person, a direct sales person, a Mary Kay lady, and they had previously had another jewelry person. And I, at the time, was with Park Lane Jewelry. And so when I came in, they were already basically familiar with the industry and they did a really great job helping me to understand how to um leverage my membership as a direct salesperson, which was fantastic. And I know not every chapter has that. And so the fact that you and I exist in the world of BNI, so now anybody out there who's thinking about going and looking into BNI for their direct sales, their network marketing, their MLM business, do it and don't let someone talk you out of it.
Absolutely.
You know, because they may have some preconceived notions about you and your business and they just don't know, right? So
Right.
so tell me then, so what got you into doTERRA? How did you find out that you were called to be there?
I was very reluctant, honestly, to step back into the MLM world, and not because of the industry. Let me just be really clear. Like, I love this sales model. I love what we do. Um, but in my first experience, it was not a consumable product, and I felt like I was
Um,
constantly asking the same people to do the same things and to do home parties.
yeah.
And when doTERRA came along, that was definitely what some people did, but I was introduced to it because my daughter had really chronic asthma, like
Uh,
hospitalized over 18 times within 24 months, on 12 prescriptions by the time she was 3 year old, just to breathe every day. Um, I
oh,
was in the ICU and told I was going to lose her when she was on life support the very first time she was hospitalized.
oh,
And so it was a long journey of going through a divorce, which that's really fun times when you're going through all this.
yeah.
And just feeling like there had to be something else. I grew up in a home that a chiropractor was my primary care physician. supplements were our first line of defense. So to be thrown into a world of all of this medical necessity that literally was keeping my daughter alive was something that I couldn't ignore, but I could never quite get comfortable. It was not in alignment with who I was. So when doTERRA came along, I was first introduced to it by a friend from high school, and I was less than gracious with her, saying, please don't try and make a buck off of my daughter's misfortune. What you have is not going to work for what we're dealing with.
Right.
She was amazing and super gracious, and I still am in contact with her all the time. But it wasn't until I came to a craft fair where somebody had a doTERRA booth that didn't know me, didn't know my story, didn't know what my daughter was dealing with. And I was able to play devil's advocate and ask those hard questions. And did you know essential oils actually have a lot of science behind them? And there's a ton of research, and they are so legit that I was able to confidently step into trying that with my daughter. And quite honestly, within 3 days, she was off of 6 of her 12 prescriptions with the blessing of her doctor, and it transformed her entire life.
Wow.
Now, 12 plus years later, she still has asthma, but it is completely maintained through healthy lifestyle and diet choices and essential oils. And of course, our chiropractor and other modalities. But I wasn't looking for a business opportunity. I was a desperate mom looking to help my child. And this is what opened the door. And when it started, I still wasn't interested in doing the business. I was just trying to help my child. But within about 2 months of her and I using the oils, I started having so many people come to me saying, what are you doing? What's different? Because as you can imagine, when she's in and out of the hospital, our life looked very different than most toddlers. We weren't able to go to play dates and bouncy houses and do all of those things because the risk of her getting a cold and putting her back in the hospital, unable to breathe, was so severe that we had a very different type of life. So when all of a sudden I was accepting those invitations to do things, or I was openly letting her play in the childcare at church, people understood something changed. And all I could say is, I don't know, it's these stupid little oils, but they're working. And I only had to be asked that a couple of times before I was like, I need to figure out more about these oils. Like, I did the research myself. I knew it was safe for her. But now that I have other people looking, I need to learn more. So I went to a doTERRA class and picked the brains of my mentors and learned about how the oils worked and why they worked and why I was seeing the differences and how it could help other people. And it was at that time that my sister went with me to that event. And quite honestly, she went with me because I was like, I am not getting sucked into an MLM. You have to come and don't let me sign up for anything. I just want to learn. She's the one who left saying, I think I want to do this as a business. Like, oh, okay. Okay, you had one job, but whatever. I love you. And I am so grateful that she said that because it opened doors, not just for my daughter's health, but to help thousands of people since then find solutions to everyday health issues that they didn't know they could find an answer for. And on top of that, as a single mom, it blessed me so abundantly that my daughter is 17. She will be graduating high school this year. And I have always been able to homeschool her. I have always been able to be involved in her activities because I have a business that has provided for us in a way that you typically don't see. So when those doors started opening in the first 6 months of my exposure to doTERRA, it was a no-brainer. Like, I knew this was in my world for a reason. And I knew there was people who needed the message and needed to find that hope. And whether it was hope for health issues or hope for their finances or just finding a way to be able to connect and build relationships, it changed everything. It changed my entire life, where nothing I was doing before is even relevant anymore.
No, I totally get that. And okay, so quite a few things came up for me in that. And I want to point these things out. So first of all, I want to point out that when your friend from high school reached out to you and said, hey, she still continued to be gracious. She didn't go, fine, biatch.
Right, exactly.
She said, that's okay. When you're ready, when you're desperate enough, I'm here. Or what, I don't know where her words were exactly, but probably something along those lines. Like, hey, just wanted to reach out and offer a potential opportunity, right? So, yes, still make the reach outs, people, because then that got
Yes.
you to pay attention when you went to the vendor event,
Yep.
right? So, y'all, if you're not doing in person vendor events, you
Do
should
them.
be, because,
Do them.
oh my gosh. So, my question is, did you end up signing under the gal from high school, or did you sign under the gal from the vendor event?
I
Or,
signed under the gal from the vendor event.
okay. Uh-huh.
And very quickly connected with the gal from high school, just explaining the how and the why. And
Yeah.
we both agreed that it was what we needed because she lived
Yeah.
in another state. Um,
Perfect.
and it's so sweet. Like, she is probably one of my biggest cheerleaders when we're at convention or when I've hit a rank. She's the first one to call and be like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad. And there's never been any hard feelings. There's never been any, you know,
Mm.
I think, again, that ties back to BNI, that giver's gain mentality
Yeah.
of, she is just so happy that she planted a seed that blossomed in my life. And
Yes.
I give her huge kudos for that because
Yeah.
it's not something we always see, although it should be.
Right. Well, and I think again, this goes back to the you may not always be the right person, the right leader, the right, and
Right.
so making sure that people go to the right person and have the right upline. So if it's not you, not getting upset that, oh, well, she's my cousin, why is she signing on with somebody else? Or because y'all, I've probably said it before, and if I haven't, here you go. People are not property. They don't belong to you.
Right.
What our place in the world is to be the conduit by which people find the answers, the products, the services, the business opportunity. And if we're not the right leader for them, right? So that was the other thing that came up, was just the so first of all, the high school friend reaching out, planting the seed, the person at the vendor event being willing to answer all the questions, the hard questions,
So
and then did she continue to follow up with you, or did you follow up with
she
her?
did. No,
Okay.
she
So
followed up with me
see, there
always.
you go. Follow through. Look, imagine if you were that person, and I'm speaking to the badass crew right now. Imagine if you were that person at that vendor event that Staci showed up at, or someone like Staci showed up at, and you have a team member who's still working the business 13 years later.
Yep.
How would that impact your business, people? I'm just telling you, you never know where your next best team member is going to come from.
Exactly. And I think that, like my BNI story, like this, I had every card stacked against me. If I were
Hmm.
honest with myself when I'm looking at who I want to recruit into my business, it would not naturally be who I was when I came into the business. I was broke. Like, I had nothing. I could hardly afford to buy a bottle of oil, let alone a kit. And I couldn't carve out the time because I was so busy working. And yet, had the person I met judged me based on those things, I would never have opened that door. And it it's changed my life. It's changed hers. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a good leader, we all benefit. So it's been a great fit, but it would have been so easy for her to just say, you're not worth my time. I want someone in a different demographic. I want someone who is, more committed, who has more time, who has, a little
Hmm.
bit less skepticism. And yet she met me where I was at, and very quickly it just exploded for all of us. So,
That is so fantastic. And I think too, the leadership concept that's there is also work with the willing, right? The people who are
yes.
ready to implement. Because my guess is, given the fact that you had so little time, you were not procrastinating on doing much of anything. You
No.
put into practice what she told you was successful,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that is so fantastic. Okay, so now let's dig into the how did leveraging BNI help your business? So, because there are some people who've maybe gone to BNI and they get upset that during the meeting they can't talk about the business opportunity and this, that, and the other, right? And if you guys are curious about that, go listen to the episode with Ivan, because we talked about that and what BNI's policy is, why it's there, and how you can actually go around that little loop. There's a loophole, y'all. I'm telling you. So if you want to know how to leverage BNI to grow a team, listen to the Dr. Ivan Meisner one because he tells you how to do it.
Yes.
So how did you leverage your membership to grow your sales and your team?
So there's several things. One of the reasons I went to BNI is the one thing I came into doTERRA knowing is that I did not want to do home parties. Now that's not against home parties. That's not against the model, but it was more of a time constraint than I had. So
Yeah.
I knew that that is not how I wanted to build the business model. Plus, again, my sister was doing this, and all of our friends and church and family overlapped. She loved doing the home parties and the one-to-ones because she was a stay-home mom and had the time to do that.
Yeah.
So BNI for me was, how was I going to make a dent in this industry with no contacts that I knew? And that's what I went to BNI for, is to create those contacts. So I very quickly set up weekly classes, and I invited my BNI chapter to them and asked them to share on their social media or put up flyers in the community. And I started teaching classes at a local restaurant that had a free conference room that I could use. And I was consistent every single week. I taught a class. Every single week, I was teaching people about different health things, and I was promoting it through BNI. I was making contacts in my BNI circle. I was asking them to help me. That's the referrals I was asking for in the beginning was, I wanted them to be my customers, but in BNI, we sell through the room, not to the room. And
Yes.
I knew that if I wanted to be treated as a business professional in the chapter and not as a mooch or someone who was just coming in to see what I could get, I needed to show up and add value first. So before I ever tried to sell an oil to a person in the room, I was asking them to help educate people and come see what I do and invite people to come see what I do. And because it was in a public space, they didn't have to host anything, they didn't have to know anybody, and it became a really open way to check it out. And I did those classes every week for about 3 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
as BNI grew and my time with my regular job was able to be scaled back because doTERRA was paying my income, I was able to visit other chapters and do the same thing. So I think it's really important. And one thing that helped was to really be clear on why I was in BNI. I was there because I needed people. I needed to build relationships to share my message. And that is what BNI is, core value, building relationships. I
Mm-hmm.
also really had to embody the giver's gain core value because, again, if I were to show up, let's face it, most of us in this industry are ladies, and most of us walk into rooms and people automatically assume you're there to tell them to do a business or to ask them to host a party or to push a product on them.
Right.
And yes, we do those three things. And if you're good in the industry, you're doing them in a way that is respectful of everybody. But
Yes.
almost every one of our customers has had a bad experience at some point with someone in an MLM that didn't know how to do that in a respectful way. So, embodying giver's gain and showing up differently than what they expected of me
Yeah.
really built more credibility very quickly. So I could show up, and I probably didn't talk about the business opportunity with anybody in BNI for the first year I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I didn't want to,
Right.
but I knew that I had to build their trust first. So they knew that I was there to serve my customers first, to put
Mm-hmm.
product focus first. And once I built that, I could talk about business all day long. I could be telling people who I need and what kind of team I'm looking for and drip into my weekly presentations. Obviously, like you mentioned, we can't ask for recruiting in BNI
Right.
in the meeting, but I could drip into my weekly presentation that this week, I'm telling you about a team builder of mine who was desperate for an income, but found her daughter's health challenge to be the way that she could create health for her daughter and income for herself. And all of a sudden, my testimonial of my customer and her product was dripping into, wait, there's a business piece to this. And people would
Yeah.
ask me about it after the meeting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways I think that we can leverage what BNI offers or any networking group.
Yeah.
But if you don't come in first, laying your guard down, being authentic and building that credibility, nothing else you do is going to make a difference. You're
Yeah.
always going to come in with that stigma that we have in this industry. You're going to have to break down the whole pyramid scheme, blah, 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 that is just ridiculous, and prove that you have what it takes and that you are to be accounted for and accountable for what you do. When you open that gate, everything else just floods in. And I could easily say for a long part of my business, BNI was at least 2/3 of my business practice.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have to worry about anything else. There was referrals coming in constantly. And still to this day, I may not have tons of team builders from BNI. I have some,
Mhm.
but I have consistent customers all across the country that know what I do, that will call me when they run out of that special product and are the first to share my stuff on social media because they want to help me succeed. And it's all because you built that solid foundation, showing up to serve.
Yep, exactly. And I want to point out, because for the listener who is sitting there going, wait, they'll share your stuff on social media, because I hear very, very regularly, like probably monthly, from a variety of network marketers, like, I can post all kinds of things on social media, but as soon as I post anything about the product, crickets. And you've got people who are sharing your things.
I do.
Me too.
It's pretty cool.
All right. And that's because they are doing the giver's gain. They're saying, hey, there might be people in my network who could use that product, who desire the outcome that the product creates, or have the pain point that that product addresses. For example, if someone were to post about frankincense helping migraines, I'd be all over posting that because I have a lot of people in my network who have migraines, right? It's, the benefit of building that networking and building those relationships and people getting to the point where they trust you enough to be able to share your posts, to share your content with other people, means they know that you're not going to go in and immediately jump on, pounce, like attack
Right.
the whole, here, watch my presentation and do this and do this and do that, like, and overwhelm the person. You've built enough of a relationship with them that they know that you're going to let the other person ask you questions. You're going to ask them questions, and just, it'll be really and truly a conversation, right?
Yes. Well, and I think that's the other door that opens with BNI or true networking organizations. And
Yeah.
I say true because there are some of those that you show up and it really, nobody's networking. They're passing out business cards and then they're
Mhm.
checking out as soon as they can. But
Yep.
when you show up to truly network, and it's something like BNI that is consistent, we're meeting every week.
Yep.
It's not just about the products I sell, but it's about leveraging the contacts that I make. I think every one of us in this industry, there are key professions that
Mhm.
we want to link arms with that are going to help advance our product. And if we were to walk into their office off the street just saying, hey, I'm so and so with this direct sales, they're going to say, bye bye, I don't want to sell anything. Thanks. However, those exact same people, when they meet you at BNI and
Mhm.
they hear about you week after week and they get to know your business and what you're doing, open their doors. I have massage therapists and chiropractors, dentists, doctors who have my product on their shelf in their office because they built up that rapport with me. They trust me, and we've been able to do it. Most of them aren't interested in the sales aspect of it,
Right.
but I have my product on shelves in places that are respected. And
Yeah.
that could go for any industry, whether you're selling clothes or jewelry or nutritional stuff. When you find those people in BNI that can help advance your product, you have a door open, and then they will be glad to introduce you to other people who can also put your product on their shelf. So there's a whole other open door that we don't even look at, because it's kind of outside the box thinking, but BNI opens those doors.
Yeah. It's fantastic because so many network marketers are out there banging on those doors saying, please just open it a crack. Like, come on, I just want an opportunity, right? And that's the benefit of referrals and relationships and introductions, because you've got that borrowed benefit of borrowed credibility from the person who's referring you.
Yeah.
That person that they're sending you to or sending to you is someone from their network, someone that they know, like, and trust, and who know, likes, and trust them.
Right.
And that is, I mean, seriously, it was the way that I built my business when I was in Park Lane Jewelry was, BNI really helped me, introduce people. And, granted, I had one of those quote unquote non-consumable products. Jewelry is not in and of itself consumable.
Right.
Fashion in itself, though, is a consumable because it does
Yes.
change every season, every year, right? But I literally had walking billboards, you know, people from BNI who would walk around wearing my jewelry, not even if they had purchased it. They were just willing to be an ambassador and go wear a beautiful necklace and a beautiful bracelet for a week and then bring it back to me
Yep.
and then bring me orders of people who purchased it.
I love that.
Right.
But
I mean, it's because they were just, they wanted to do something and they were like, look, I'm not in a position to buy this right now. Because of course, when I started in BNI, it was the middle of that recession 12-ish years ago. And so there were people who were like, yeah, I don't have money to buy jewelry right now, but I'm willing to wear it. I'm willing to like walk around. So I'd be like, okay, I'll bring you jewelry at the next meeting. You wear what you want for a week, bring it back to the next meeting, and then just let me know who purchased what.
I love that. That's brilliant, by the way.
I was like, I got to do something. You got to be
Right.
creative in this.
Oh, absolutely.
And
You've
when
got to
you've
find
got,
a way to get them
yeah,
to work for you, because the reality is, if they're in BNI, they want to support your business,
yeah.
and it's our job to teach them how to do that. So we have to figure out, my entire chapter will rally behind me and help me in any way I can, any way they can. But if I don't give them the tools, if I don't create the social media post for them to share, they
Yep.
can't share it. If I don't give them the flyer to hang up in their office, they can't promote it. We
Yeah.
can't expect them to build our business for us, but if we create those tools, they will always rise to the occasion and share and help and talk you up in ways that nobody else can.
Yeah. It's just so fantastic to see the different ways in which people use their BNI membership in order to build and grow their business, especially in the world of network marketing, because you're not the first network marketer MLM person from BNI who's on the show, and nor will you be the last. I already know I've got a few more booked in the coming weeks. But what and I could talk to you about this forever. And so we're going to have you back another time to discuss this. But I know one of the things that you put together when I said, hey, do you have a gift for the Badass Crew, my listeners? I love what you told me that you have for everybody. I'm going to let you tell everybody what it is because it is brilliantly cute.
Well, thank you. So, as you know, I do essential oils, and essential oils last a while. And I have found over my 12 years in the industry that often people buy oils for a specific thing and then they forget why they bought them. So, my gift to all of your listeners is a dust off your bottle free consultation, a 15-minute consultation. Send me a list of the oils collecting dust in your cabinet that you forgot how to use. Book a 15-minute consultation and we'll go through what that oil is for, all of the other ways that you can use it, how I would use it, and make sure that your oils aren't collecting dust. I will say as a caveat, I am a doTERRA girl, so I know doTERRA oils inside and out, and I don't know other company oils. So I'm happy to help. I'm happy to try. But if you send me a list of a blend that I don't know, I probably can't give you much help. But
Unless
if
you
you
know
have
what's in
oils
it.
collecting dust, I am
Yeah.
here and I'm happy to help. And I will do my best to make
Yeah.
sure that they are well loved and well used.
I love that. So the Badass Crew already knows to go to the show notes to click on the link to book the consultation with you. But for those who are listening for the very first time and they're saying, well, oh yeah, I have a couple of bottles, or I've got a bottle, or I've got 5 bottles, or I'm going to call myself out here. When I first bought my very first doTERRA family. I think it was the family kit.
Yes.
It was meant to be for, a bunch of oils for the family. I pulled out the frankincense because it was included. And I knew that it would help my migraines, which is why I always talk about frankincense and migraines. But all the other oils sat in that box, and the kit collected dust for months before I finally reached out to my wellness advocate and said, "Okay, girl, in all of my shame, I held up the box at my BNI meeting because she and I were in the chapter together at the time. And I said, look at this. Like, I didn't attempt to dust it off before I brought it in. I went, I need to know what to, like, I don't know what to do with all the rest of these. Like, I know frankincense makes me better. I don't know what all these others are and what they do. And she was like, oh my gosh. And so that's when she and I came up with the fact that she needed to do something like what you're talking about, which is this. She didn't call it the dust off your bottle. We called it Essential Oils 201. Yeah. So the 101 was the introduction and the 201 was after you got your kit. So that way she could meet with people and say, okay, now here's what these things do. So it would remind them how it became personally good for them. So for those of you who are sitting there with a dusty bottle of oil somewhere and you're like, I don't know what to use this for, go to the show notes. Yes. Which, for those of you who are new to the show, the way you get to the show notes is grab your phone, as long as you're not driving, click on today's episode, scroll under Staci's picture, and you will see the show notes, including all of her social media links and contact information. And you'll see the link where you can book your dust off the bottle free 15-minute consultation with her to go over what some of those oils may be and how they can help you moving forward. So, Staci, this has been awesome and amazing. And I am so grateful we both ended up in Las Vegas in May of 2023.
Me too. That was fantastic.
I had a blast getting to chat with you, and I loved your story. I'm not even kidding you. You told your story. I looked at my fiance, who's also in network or in BNI, and he looked at me and he's like, go chase her down. So as soon as the group dispersed, I was like,
yes.
Went right after you, because I was like, oh man, I have to grab her card because I missed her name. So I wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on getting you on the show. And so, Staci, your story is amazing. And I hope you continue sharing it each and every day, because people need to hear it. It is inspirational. It is motivational. And there are so many little nuggets in there to help them build and grow their own businesses. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I know you said at convention when we met that it was surprising that I actually had listened to your podcast several times long before you introduced. So I was just as tickled to finally meet you and to be part of your amazing crew. So thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share my story and just being who you are for our industry. I'm so grateful to you.
Oh, thank you. I fangirl over every one of my listeners anytime they meet me in person. They're like, I listened to your show. And I'm like, do? Because, I think it's because still in my head, I still have this thing from 5 years ago when I started. My first month, I had 7 whole downloads. And I'm like, me and my mom and my fiance listened to it multiple times. And that was it. But so I still kind of, I think we all kind of have that in our world, in our life, that we sometimes still have that, previous vision of ourselves or our business or the way things were. So it still shocks me, and it pleasantly tickles me, as you said, when someone says, oh, I've heard your podcast. I'm like, for real? So cool. Totally fangirl on the inside. I'm like, yes. So this has been amazing. I know we're going to continue having conversations and, of course, those all important one-to-ones to help each other out, because givers gain, baby. Givers
all the way.
Gain. Love it. So, and of course, Badass Crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned, because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.